whimsical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL Network.
Yes, that is right. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays to all of our friends out there. Welcome, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network's Hot Take Show for the Austin Butler and Lizzo episode of Saturday Night Live. So excited to be with you tonight on this special holiday night where we get to talk all things SNL Christmas episode. And of course, this night was certainly all about one of the all-time great cast members, Cecily Strong, where if you didn't get the vibes from the episode or didn't hear the news beforehand, she is departing. This was her last episode tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And of course, we're going to break down her legacy on Monday on the roundtable. But I'm so excited to bring in our guests that are with us tonight and everybody in the chat who is spending the holiday season start kicking it off with us tonight. So appreciate that. First up, let me introduce my man, Andrew Haskell. Always a celebration when he comes on. Haskell, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Feel like I was just here doing a hot take show a couple weeks ago. This time I actually got promoted to be yeah, right. So we get to do this. I haven't done a hot take show with you in a while, so I'm excited.
Yes, very pumped always to get to talk to you. It's always a fun time. And of course, it's always wonderful to get Kaleena Steakle on the podcast with us. So Kaleena, how are you?
I'm good, John. I'm so excited to be back. And I was just telling y'all during our commercial break, I feel like I'm a bad luck charm for intense breaking news happening just either during or hours before I'm on the show. But I don't think there's a better episode that I could have been on the show for. So I'm excited.
That is true. There's a very fun show, in case you missed it over the summer, where we were saying goodbye to some of the departed cast members like Alex Moffat. And then all of a sudden, Chris Red leaves the show too. And Kaleena and I, we had to break it down. So that was just a lot of fun. But yes, of course, we kick off our show with headlines or hot takes. And I would imagine we're going to be talking about Cecily Strong's. This is really Cecily's night as we sort of, depart, say goodbye to her and say farewell to Cecily. So Haskell, I'll give you first word on it. What's your hot take or headline from the night?
Well, it's Cecily's night. It's also the Christmas episode, and expectations are high. I thought the Cecily stuff was done amazingly, and I think what they did for her is going to show kind of what Lauren thinks of Cecily, and we'll get into that a little bit later. I thought the non-Cecily stuff was a bit of a whiff for the Christmas episode. So it's really the tale of two episodes for me. Not everything, but it was the tale of two episodes where if you ask, and you will, by the end of the episode, ask me to grade it out on the Cecily stuff, it'd be 1 grade. If you ask me to grade it out as an episode, it's going to be a completely different grade.
Interesting. Yeah, I see a lot of comments in the chat about perhaps the show was slightly a little bit uneven, but this will be known. What the show will be remembered for seems to be the Cecily departure. And of course, I'm curious, Kaleena, if you feel similarly. What is your hot take or headline from the night?
Man, yeah, he really nailed it. That's really similar to how I feel. I don't quite agree with feeling like they nailed all the Cecily stuff. I'll hold most of my thoughts on that until we get to that point. I did feel some of that felt a bit weirdly like self-indulgent, even though earned. I just don't think it necessarily came off in the best way. I would say, yeah, I mean, not a bad episode by any means, but I do think as fans, we really look forward to the Christmas episode. Like, I feel like they've kind of built up a reputation for special episodes like that. And yeah, it was as the kids say, it was kind of mid.
All right. Well, I love this episode. I'm just going to put it out there. I really enjoyed a lot here. Like, not everything was perfect. There were some sketches that I think we're going to dive into throughout the week that I think there's like little things I would adjust here and there. But like, I really had a lot of fun tonight. Finding out, slightly before the episode that Cecily was going to leave certainly changed my perspective on what I was watching tonight, which was all Cecily focused. Like, which sketches she was going to be in, which character she was going to bring back. Like, was this night going to be focused about her? And in a way, I was kind of happy that they did so many things in the show that weren't Cecily focused. I love Cecily, and I think she's a great cast member. I think we're going to talk about her all week long and all season long even for a long time, we're always going to remember Cecily as a cast member on SNL. But I actually think, to Haskell's point tonight, he was saying, well, this is the Christmas episode. You have a lot of high standards here. And I was like expecting, all sorts of Cecily characters all throughout the night. And it was kind of fun that they saved certain moments of the show, like tentpole moments, in my opinion, tonight, where we got Cecily Strong content, which was really like, look, say what you want about the cold open. We'll get into it in a minute, but there she appears in the cold open. We get a huge moment from her on Update we're going to talk about. And then, of course, the last sketch of the night. So for me, it was kind of fun that they sort of split it up that way, where it was like, segments of the night were Cecily focused. And in the middle, we got some like really fun SNL Christmas stuff to talk about. So I'm having a great time tonight. And let's just be real. 1 year ago's time, we did not have an SNL episode. We were talking about a great sketch, but we were talking about Dick and Box for the 100th time, because they re-aired it. And it was, Paul Rudd and, Michael Che doing Update with Tina Fey. It just, everything was so weird. And now we have a normal episode at Christmas. You're all here in the chat with us. So I cannot wait to get into it. So excited to be here with all of you. So let's get into our cold open from tonight, and let's talk about Trump NFT cold open. And I figured this was what we were going to get this week, considering Trump had a big announcement in the middle of the week. Everyone thought he was going to announce his re-election for 2024, but wait, no, it's NFTs that were being announced. Craziness, as always. What else do we expect? So let's get your thoughts in the chat. We'll bring them up on screen in case you haven't been with us before. And then Haskell and Kaleena, I want your thoughts as well. Haskell, I'm starting with you.
I was a little nervous at the beginning of this cold open because I thought they had fallen back into the trap of like, oh, we're just going to read what Trump is saying already, and we're all just going to laugh at like what he says, because that's how it kind of starts out. Like his opening is very, very similar to the way Trump actually started that commercial or infomercial or whatever you want to call it. So I was a little concerned, but JAJ is so good at that Trump role that they did pull it together a little bit. I think the line of the cold open was when he said, I know it sounds like Pokemon, but it's not Pokemon. I'm pretty sure it's not Pokemon. That was my favorite line. And then I also loved, there was this moment right before, Cecily and Mikey depart, where they just played with the silence for a second. Something I don't, I love when SNL does it, and they don't do it a ton, is they just played with that silence. And for a second, it looked like JAJ missed his cue, but I don't think he did. I think he was just kind of letting it build for a second before he was just like, okay, and then sent them on their way. So that was good. And that's what I like. I like his version of Trump playing off of other people, because we were so used to that Alec Baldwin sort of, what I assumed was a guy who wasn't around for rehearsals much, so only could monologue because he could memorize his lines elsewhere and then come in and do it on Saturday night, which is why I was a little disappointed then at the end of the monologue. The rundown, Trump rundown, it never hit with me that much outside of maybe the first time they did it. And I think this was by far the weakest version of it. And I'm kind of hoping that they realize that this version of Trump that they have is fine without that gimmick, and it's time to retire that gimmick.
Okay, Kaleena, over to you.
I wrote in my notes that I kind of felt like this was going to be one of those topics this week where SNL was kind of going to lose whichever direction they went. If they didn't cover it, people were going to say, why didn't SNL tackle this? This would have been perfect content for them. And then if they were going to, and when they did, half of the audience is like, oh, more Trump stuff. Oh, of course, SNL did this. So I kind of feel like they were already dealt not like the strongest hand just with this content. I will also continue to stay on brand of being the person who is always like very behind on things happening online. I didn't know that this like Trump NFT thing was real until like yesterday. I literally thought it was like just a joke and a meme. And then a friend of mine made a video about it. So when this whole skit happened, it was still like very new to me that this was something that even happened. So it was actually a little bit informative for me. So I kind of enjoyed it in that sense, but there was also part of me that's like, I feel like I've seen Trump on SNL for so long now that I think there is part of me that kind of tunes out a little bit, even though we love the JAJ impression. I just feel like I've seen it so many times. You shouldn't be surprised to hear, John, that I thought I was in my right to expect a cameo from Alex Muffet. I was let down. It's fine. It hasn't been that long since he's been gone. I get it. And then my final beef is I really, really wanted to get one last live from New York from Cecily. And I'm a little bummed that we didn't get that as part of her send off.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think that would have been a fun. There was no reason why we couldn't. I mean, it could have been fine to bring back in Mikey and Cecily for this. I mean, my thoughts on this week's cold open was it just felt like obligatory. Like it felt like they had to address this. This was probably the biggest news story this week, heading into like slow Christmas news. But this was just like a very weird, bizarre situation. If they're gonna bring out the JJ Trump, I think this is probably the type of news story you want to do it for, where it's like sort of not that serious, you know, like it's just nifties. So for them, it's like it's kind of fun to bring out Trump for something like this. Was the sketch itself like so, you know, ironed out to a point that it really worked well? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that JJ, you know, I see some people in chat talking about, you know, they like JJ as Trump when he's like solo and direct to camera, as opposed to when he's interacting with other people. And I think I tend to agree with that. I think that's probably the right place for him. So I would say that's fine. And look, I mean, truth be told, I'm sure we're going to get more of this in the future. So this to me was not like, it wasn't the worst one that we've gotten out of the 11 JJ Trumps we've had so far in a season and a half. So this was okay. Yeah, nothing too special for me, but you know, it was interesting having Cecily in here playing, you know, a typical, you know, Republican character that we gotten so many times throughout her career at the show. I think it was just sort of fitting in a way that this, you know, Cecily was going to play one of these characters again in her final episode, since she was sort of representative of playing all like the random Republican women, you know, politicians throughout so many years. Okay, then we get our monologue tonight, and written by Mike DiCenzo and Jake Nordwind. And here comes Austin Butler. Very surprising pick for the Christmas episode. I think people sort of expected this to be the Stephen Marty week, which we talked a lot about throughout last week. But, you know, Austin Butler, you know, I didn't have many expectations. I was excited to see what he would bring to the show. He talks about his voice change, which seemed to be the buzz online, was like, hey, did he always have this voice? I think they were playing on that aspect of things. But I love what DiCenzo and Nordwind always do with these monologues, where you really get to know this person. And, you know, he would talk about how, you know, he'd always watch SNL with his mom. And at the holidays, I mean, I think that's just like a really nice thing to start to talk about, where he does this fun Gollum impression. And then he mentions how his mom would be so proud of him for doing this. So I thought that was really nice and special. Kaleena, how'd you feel about what you saw from Austin tonight in his monologue?
Yeah, so I always find it interesting depending on who the host is and like what part of the industry they're in, as well as how well they're known, how the monologues are written for them. So like whenever there's a stand-up comedian that's hosting, it's very much like, you know, microphone like John Mulaney style, or, you know, they're writing their own material. If it's, you know, an athlete who maybe we don't expect to be that funny or whatever, like I feel like there's definitely different types of monologues written for different types of hosts. And so similar to you, I didn't really know what to expect from Austin, because to be frank, I don't really know any of his work outside of his role in Elvis. So I didn't really have an opinion on him as a performer. And I like when every once in a while, and I think it works specifically in the case with Austin Butler, because I think there's probably a lot of people who maybe don't know him that well. I think it works to kind of have an emotional arc, to kind of just let the audience get attached right away. So that way, like whatever zany or weird thing they do, they already kind of have like, he already kind of has them around their finger, you know. And personally, I also lost my mom last year, and yesterday was actually her birthday. So it was like something that just really resonated with me personally, getting to hear his with it. Same thing, like I would make my mom watch SNL with me. That was just part of what we did on Saturdays. So for me personally, I think the monologue really worked and was like a nice emotional soft start to the show.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Kaleena. That's really nice. And I'm sure a lot of people out there like feel similarly how they saw Austin getting to talk about that, because it's not easy to talk about. So thanks for doing that. Haskell, how did you feel about what you saw tonight from Austin and his monologue?
Yeah, well, I'm a sucker for any of those. Like, I grew up watching SNL, and part there, you know, I do have a cynic in me who's always like, sometimes I'll see somebody say that in the monologue, and I'll be like, I don't know if I believe them. I wonder if everybody really grew up that way, because like, yeah, I grew up as like a little kid watching SNL and like trying to stay up with my parents, but then it took me like finding this community on the internet to really find other people who really did that. But he came across so genuine that I do believe it. And his story reminded me a lot about the Matt Damon's monologue from a few seasons ago when he was hosting around Christmas time. Like just like that family aspect in this episode is so huge, and it's such a great way to start the episode, and to like. He did get a couple of good lines in there. It was a quick monologue. It was definitely more on the emotional side. But when he said like, yeah, like all moms, she was a fan of Gollum. Like that's such like a quick little off the cuff, like, wait, what line that like I really like that they've built the monologues around those sort of lines these last couple of years. Especially as they're pulling back on these monologues to again make them more personal. These quick little lines that show what these hosts are capable of have become like a huge part of the show for me. So, and I think he was phenomenal, and it's gonna, we'll see it through as we talk about the rest of the episode. It kind of just continued to build for him.
Yeah, and like let's be real, we want fans to host the show. Like I don't mean like, all of us, but I'm saying like celebrity fans who like people who actually like and watch the show. Like I think Miles Teller in the premiere was, played a home video from when he was dancing, like the cheerleaders. These are the types of things that we really want that make us, warm up to them, and especially probably give them more slack in some of the sketches that are to come later on in the night, because it's like, you are a fan, you are doing this. This is so cool for us. So for me, it's like, SNL, as you're picking your host, like, again, I actually would say this is a brilliant choice, because, you're going to go and you're going to pick a celebrity who's young and appeals to a lot of different demographics. But at the same time, you're picking a fan of Saturday Night Live, and you didn't have to do that. So that to me is very cool, and why I enjoy getting to watch this.
It should be noted, though, that I was selected in the Never Hosts a Draft for this episode. So there are people out there that do want me, a fan, to host the show.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, if you go back, that's a very meta, as we like to get over here. Okay, let's start with our first sketch of the night. This is a Wheel of Fortune style game show called The Phrase That Pays, written by Ken Sublette and Jake Nordwin. And here we have JJ as Dan Smatter, our host of the show, Heidi, Austin, and Punky. Hey, Punky is a normie in the sketch. Great to see that. So they're here, and they're all contestants playing this game where basically it's Wheel of Fortune, but without the wheel. They get to guess a letter, and then they get to guess the phrase. So Austin just magically seems to keep getting things right, including Hotel California, All the Light We Cannot See, famous quotes, and really just trying to figure out what's going on here. Heidi thinks that he's like that poker player who may have had a device in his ass, or it was a chess player. Yeah, so for me, a lot of questions about this, but Haskell, how do you feel about the phrase that pays?
I think what you just did explaining the sketch is the effort it took to write this sketch. Like this when I talk about this things didn't deliver in this episode, this was one of the worst first sketches after the monologue I have seen in so long. I was mad at how this was one of the few times, and I have so much respect for everything that goes into SNL, writing it and making it and being on SNL. This is one of those few times where I went, are you kidding me? You write for Saturday Night Live, and on the Christmas episode, you came up with the guy's magically really good at the game show for no reason, and there's no other twist to the sketch. I was so mad at how bad this sketch was. That's why I just am. I can't even. There's no other. I don't know what was so funny to Heidi where she kept almost breaking, because there wasn't a joke in the sketch. I've
never seen you so angry and passionate. Wow.
I've very few times watching this have I ever watched a sketch and went. The sketch ended. I looked at my wife and I said, that was terrible. Like there has to be some standard higher than this. There was nothing outside of that sketch besides he's magically good at the game. Now watch him do that 4 times. That was a terrible sketch.
Wow. Okay. We just the heat is on. Kaleena, do you feel the same way?
Hey, this is the hot take show, okay? Haskell's bringing the heat. I internalized the amount of passion that Haskell just described, and I just simply wrote in my notes, nothing to say that wasn't funny. because it sucked. That was a terrible sketch. And I always love to talk about, pre and post update sketches. That wasn't even worthy of having been a post update sketch if it were to have been a post update sketch. It was that much of a clunker. I feel like I was watching a sketch where the writers forgot to write the punchline and no one knew until it aired live. That's really what it felt like. Like, I feel like they were all in the writers' room like, we didn't finish the joke. Okay, just end it. We'll just go to the next sketch. Like, it really felt like watching like unfinished work. Like, this was the I don't know, like the intern summer writing program's submission that made it on the year-end episode or something. It was really just bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, people who watch us regularly know, like, I don't really love commentary on SNL being like, this was funny or this was not funny. I just find that like way too subjective. And I tell our panelists all that all the time. I'm like, don't tell me if something wasn't funny. Tell me why it wasn't funny. And I think that like when I was watching this sketch tonight, I just sort of was like, I think my main commentary was like, what? Like, because I was just like, I really give like a lot of leeway, as people know, like I give a lot of leeway to just like following the structure to like try and understand. And I do feel like this had to have been cut down like to bare bones. And there was something here that I'm missing. And I'm hoping maybe that, and thanks Ellis, Jewish Ellis, our intern, is in the chat tonight, and he says that that this was the sketch and dress. So it's really interesting to me that I don't know what the previous iteration or how this was written or whatever, because if you liked it, I support it, but I don't know, like I don't see the beginning, middle, and end here. Like, that's where I think I'm struggling with it, is like I really try and watch it to a point. I'm like, okay, but like it's just it's not even like, hey, something weird is happening. It's like just something happened. And like that's where I think I struggle with this one. So if you feel that there is some, if you're watching this, and I know we have a ton of listeners, all different ages, all different demographics, all different places around the world, if you feel like you saw something in this sketch that we didn't see, please let me know, because I would love to talk about this more. I felt somewhat similarly about the deer sketch earlier in the season, and it was explained to me many times. So I feel like maybe I'm missing something. Maybe we're missing something tonight. But let's keep going, because I think that this episode got way better right now when we're going to talk about this pre-tape that comes up next. And we get this Tom Schiller-esque pre-tape called Holiday Epiphany, where we get a black and white Mikey and Austin's leaving the bar, and Mikey doesn't want Austin to drive, and he's drinking, and they're talking about, what about Denise? And he called it off. This is we get to meet Chloe as Denise later, but he's drinking and walking in this very emotional scene, and he's walking and he looks in the window and he sees this beautiful family, Heidi feeding Andrew and Sarah and Marcello. And what has he been afraid of? Well, we get the perspective of the family, who just sees this creepy man staring in the window, and we get this full-on breakdown of the sketch where Heidi has cheated on Andrew because he's a pathetic man, and the kids are scared, and so many angles to this one. And I'm not talking about the angle that they viewed when Mikey Day was standing up and Austin was on his knees, but this was just a insane sketch, and I'm so happy we had this in the show, because wow, did this episode turn around as soon as I saw it. To me, this was a classic. Kaleena, how'd you feel about it?
I loved it. I didn't really know where it was going at first. Like, I kind of thought like, oh, but Austin just wanted to show his acting chops or something, wanted to have kind of like a dramatic Elvis meets Jimmy Stewart kind of moment. Because at first I thought it was just going to be like a parody of It's a Wonderful Life or something. And so I don't know, I was into it. I always like when there's kind of like a shake up in the looks of a pre-tape like that. And then when they cut to the inside, that was like a little twist that I didn't see coming. It wasn't something that I predicted necessarily. And it was a really nice, for me, like a slow continuation of the joke. Like, they kept building and building, like they were just kind of stacking blocks on each other, which I think they usually do more successfully in pre-tapes, where they can maybe polish it a little bit more than they do in like live sketches. And so I just kept laughing more and more throughout the whole thing. And I don't know, I genuinely really enjoyed it. It had really good notes for me.
Haskell, did you enjoy this one as much as I did?
You got to think in real time where I'm at right now. I just saw a sketch that I hate, and then this thing pops up and boy, does this save the episode right off the bat. One, Austin Butler, and we've talked about it in the monologue, dude, he is nails. He is good. Like, we've said it a ton, and there just hasn't been a lot of returning really good hosts. Like, we've had a lot of really good one-time hosts who have not come back this era. Man, he needs to come back. He's good. You said it, right? There's a lot of angles to this sketch, and that's what really makes it work, is like, they could have just kind of played the one note of he's doing weird things in the window and the family's reacting, and we could have played that out a few times. But to then have everything sort of break down inside the house too was incredible. And I love that. Oh, excuse me. I love that Dismukes got that role. That felt like a very Mikey Day role to have. So it looks like, Dismukes got that one as well. But overall, just like a really fun sketch. And it feels like back-to-back weeks, we got like two what could be classic Christmas pre-tapes.
Yeah, and then last Christmas, I think our friend Nigel in the chat brought this up. Last Christmas, we had, one of the only pieces of new content we got from that Paul Rudd episode was an evening with Pete, which was sort of like a fun goodbye to Pete Davidson that we only ended up getting like 5 months later. But, this to me was so great. I loved, and I see that people in the chat mentioning the same thing. I love that we went like a full minute without actually breaking down the sketch. Like, the delayed gratification, I think, is what makes this so much fun. And I think there's a lot of subtle things here. I think it's like the musical score behind this that's making this emotional and dramatic. And like, I was watching this and I just was transported back to like seeing some of the classic Christmas moments that have been in the SNL Christmas special for so many years, like the Christmas Time for the Jews and like things like that, where you're like watching something and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be seeing this for like 20 years. Like, that's how good this was. Then I was watching it, and we have missed Andrew Dismukes. Like, that's to say, like, that's one of my main like gripes with some of the stuff in 48 is like Andrew had like a pretty good start to the season where he had like his Andrew moment, but like, wow, have I missed him the last few weeks, because I just think every single time he's there, he does something so amazing. And like, to me, he was like the perfect guy to be there. Heidi was just crushing it. Like, I just feel like everyone was so well cast. And even like Sarah, it's just like, for me, like, I just think this thing was as perfect as it gets from Saturday Night Live. And last week I felt like we had like the best sketch of the season with that Christmas Carol pre-tape, and like, this to me is like very, very close. I'm not sure which one would be up there. And before the episode tonight, I said like on like Austin Butler's ceiling to me is Adam Driver. His floor is like, replacement level Disney host. And I felt like we got a lot of like Adam Driver-esque stuff here tonight. And thanks, Sammy, for pointing that out in the chat as well. I totally agree. Okay, next up we have Marzipan is here, where this is a sketch written by Allison Gates and Ken Soblett, where Keenan is introducing the almost like the Von Trapp kids, like very Sound of Music like children, that they love candy and especially marzipan. And Marcelo, Sarah, Chloe, Austin, and Bowen are just obsessed. It comes in any shape, and the strange British children are just I shouldn't even say marzipan as they were saying it, marzipan. And we get Longfellow coming in here as well, who's the chef who's making it. So this is just a lot of weird, a lot of interesting thoughts I have, but I would like to go to Haskell on this one first. Haskell, are you a marzipan guy?
I'm probably a little bit lower on this sketch than some people, and this is where I think the episode dips a little bit more in my mind than it is some other people's. I think there's a lot of funny moments here. The Bowen just being so pent up that he can just scream is really good. And then they go away from it and his character is something else after. And we bounce around so much. Like, I think this was like an okay sort of weird, funny sketch that could have been a really good, weird sketch with a little bit of more focus. Like, it felt like they definitely had the idea, which was to make fun of this confectionery, do you call it a candy? I don't know, treat. They definitely, like, somebody must have like brought that into the office this week and people were like, what is this? And they were like, let's write a sketch about it. And they were like, all right, well, what if we did it with like the Von Trapp kids? And then what if we did this? And it just became a hodgepodge. So I think it was just a little bit more focus, and I would have been kind of on board a little bit more.
Yeah, I know a lot of people watch the Christmas episodes with their family if they're home and watching them. So I got a fun text from my sister tonight who was watching live, who just says that she could not get enough of Marzipan when she was a kid, and that my mom used to bring Marzipan back for her back from trips, and she was just obsessed and stuff like that. And I just couldn't believe all the discourse I saw, because I'm not like a Marzipan guy, but like there were so many people online who were like, "Oh yeah, like I love Marzipan," and like I think that's like what works about Weird, Kaleena, is like that, just like when you pick something like kind of obscure and then you like make it so big and dramatic and fun, like that's when SNL is at its best, because it's like, whoa, like what was that? But I never thought about that, and like that's the fun in this sketch. Do you agree?
I do agree. I think that definitely feels like one of those, like, 3:46 a.m. ideas on writing night that they kind of just roll with and, like, develop over the rest of, rest of the session. I haven't had marzipan before. I don't know what it is, I guess, other than the description of this sketch, so maybe if I've ever tried it, I would feel, like, more one type of way about it. I thought it was really funny just because of how dumb it was, and I feel like they were leaning into how dumb it was. I liked that everyone had, like, varying degrees of British accents. Every sketch was Austin doing Elvis as the character that he was playing, and so, like, British Elvis to me was kind of like a fun element in it. I wrote in my notes that Keenan saying anything in a funny voice always works for me, so whenever he's kind of like the guy that's just setting up the context in the sketch, if he's being goofy about it, that's always going to get a laugh out of me. I'm always down for Bowen just screaming. I find that very funny whenever he's
Okay.
playing any kind of hysterical character. He's just so committed to it that I feel like you can't help but kind of laugh either with him or at him. Um, I loved the line, "Yuck, it's perfect." I thought that was impeccable delivery. And then my last note that I put was, it was really reminding me of the Gilly sketch, specifically from Zac Efron's episode in 2009 with Will Forte, like between the camera work and the like light German accent and just continuing to like go to kind of a single shot of each person to deliver a joke. And the Zac Efron Gilly sketch is one of my personal favorites, and so I think maybe that's part of why Marzipan kind of worked for me, just because it was reminiscent of a type of sketch that I already love.
Yeah, I see that, and I think so. I've never had marzipan before, as they said. That's how they said it, but I've never had it before. I think I'm going to get some and try it on the round table on Monday. I feel like that would be a good bit. So I'm going to get some. Maybe the whole panel can get some. We'll try some marzipan and see how it is. But like honestly, I really enjoyed the sketch. Was it stupid? Hell yeah, and I loved every minute of it because I just thought it was so weird. Keenan's breaking like didn't really bother me as much as it seems like a lot of the chat did, because I just thought he was having so much fun with it. And truth be told, like if I was in the room and I saw Bowen screaming like that, I would be breaking too. So like, all credit to Bowen for just having the time of his life, and really a couple good Bowen moments tonight. We're going to get into the other one. But my main comment on this one was like, this was so weird and amazing, but like, who are these kidnapped children? And like, maybe that's the fun of it. Like usually I'm like, oh, I want to know like where these people came from. But like, maybe it was fun for the sketch that we didn't understand, like, who are these children and how did they get there? So yeah, the very 10-to-1 vibes for me with this one. Okay, excited to talk about this next sketch written by Dan Bula and Sarah Sherman. So this was a sketch that was cut from the Miles Teller and Kendrick Lamar episode, the season premiere. And all I kept hearing was, whoa, I can't believe that they cut the Jewish Elvis sketch. How could they do that? And they brought it back. I mean, Elvis was in the building tonight, so they had to bring it back. And this time we get Cecily and Chloe and Ego. They're all watching something about to happen at the Oasis Theater. And of course, Austin is next to them, dressed as Lois, and is freaking out because Sarah Sherman's about to come in as Jewish Elvis, schwitzing, very excited, schwitzing like a freaking hound dog, and so tired because her back hurts. And Austin is just so excited by this, as Lois, just full on taking off her underwear. And of course, we end up getting Bowen coming in as Bert, director of the retirement home, comes on in a little bit later. And then eventually we get Jewish Elvis on the toilet. I thought Elvis died on the toilet. I think that was maybe in the original version of the sketch. But I also noticed, I got sent to me tonight, Jewish Elvis trending on Twitter after this one, because yeah, this is just unreal. Haskell, how'd you feel about Jewish Elvis tonight?
So there was we might be able to find the audio somewhere, early last season where I was like, yeah, Sarah Sherman's good. I don't know if I'm fully on board the way that everybody else is yet. Well, I'm fully on board. Like this, she is a freaking rock star. No pun intended, playing Elvis, but you know, the way that she has just come in and been like, I don't know what I can add to traditional SNL. So if you guys don't mind, I'm just going to carve out my own portion of the show, and I'm just going to do my stuff, and I'm not going to edit it down at all. And it was this sketch, like, this is probably the live sketch of the night for me. I felt like there was like a little moment too, because like there has been like some chatter online since like week one of like Jewish Elvis. Like, I wonder when we're going to get Jewish Elvis. Like, is she going to bring it back around? So I'm glad we got it tonight. It was awesome. The energy was there. You could tell how much fun everybody in the sketch was having. And I will say, I'm kind of happy it did get cut earlier this year so that it could be tonight, because Austin Butler, he made that sketch. Like, obviously, Sarah Sherman's so good, and she clearly has such a handle on whatever this character is already. But he was like balls to the wall, like into this sketch, that it was perfect. I don't know if Miles Teller would have been. I don't even know if that character existed the first time that they did the sketch. But she was phenomenal, and he was phenomenal. You know, at least live sketch wise, that was the live sketch of the night for me.
Yeah, and like we've been complaining for a long time, but like, oh my God, the pre-tapes are so great this season. Like, you're just waiting for like a great live sketch. Like, to me, this is probably the best live sketch of the season. Just how good this was, and well put together, and just she kills it. And you know, honestly, like, we're talking about comparisons. Like, first of all, I think Sarah Sherman is in a class of her own. There's no archetype. There's no one like her that's ever been on the show before. We're always making comparisons, trying to figure that out. But to me, she is in her own like group of, you know, and I love it. I love getting to see it, because every single week I'm excited about what I'm going to get to see from her. She's bringing something to the show that I haven't seen in a long time. And like, look, you know, Kristen and Kate were like amazing. Cecily, amazing prospects at the show. I really get like, you know, Will Ferrell and Eddie Murphy vibes from Sarah Sherman, in my opinion. And maybe that's like extremely high praise, but just like, I just feel like she stands out above the rest in terms of like every week she's bringing something that's just bringing down the house. And it's like, I just feel like the show is being like, this is Sarah's show and she's the star. And like, how exciting is that for all of us, that we have so many years of Sarah Sherman ahead of us. Kaleena, what are your thoughts on this sketch?
I loved this. I wrote down instant classic. I felt like within a minute, I was like, oh, this is going to be like one of the ones that makes the cycle. Like, this is going to be, you know, I know that when I talk about SNL to people and I get excited, or it's like my turn to pick what to do for a group hangout, I am very selective about like which sketches I will pull up on YouTube and start showing people. And I immediately felt like this was one that I could kind of throw into my little playlist. Austin was hysterical. I wrote that he was shockingly funny, and not that I didn't think that he had it in him. I just didn't know what to expect. I love when characters or archetypes are really exaggerated for a laugh, and SNL can be really, really good at that. And so I feel like this was the perfect platform to do that, kind of with like, you know, the characters in the retirement home. Sarah was so sharp and so quick, and she did not miss a beat. I mean, she was like melodic in this sketch, truly. Like, she was just so skilled at what she was doing that I almost forgot I was watching a show and I was watching a live sketch, you know. Like, I was just totally bought into the world of it. I don't know, I laughed probably more than I did at any other sketch of the night. So I would argue that maybe it is my favorite sketch of the night as well. And I weirdly felt like it almost started off like a Jerry Seinfeld bit to me. Like, it almost seemed like the premise of like an opening to a Seinfeld episode, and then it was something that just went off the rails. So I'm excited that this is just out in the world, and I don't think I can imagine Miles Teller in it. So I'm glad it got saved for Austin, because I think he killed it.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I just think this run, like, that's the reason why I'm sort of high on this episode is like, yeah, a three sketch run can really change my opinion on an episode. And I think this 3 sketch run between Holiday, Epiphany, Marzipan, and then this one, like, was just one of the best, like, 3 sketch runs we've had this entire season. So for me, this was like completely elevated this episode. Of course, then we get musical guest Lizzo coming in for this week, and very fun. You know, previous host earlier this calendar year was Lizzo, and it was great to get to see her there. Kaleena, Haskell, thumbs up on Lizzo music tonight. You enjoy getting to see that?
She's a performer, man. She's born to do it.
Yeah, she's just awesome. So happy to have her there tonight for the Christmas show. And of course, let's get to Weekend Update tonight, where we have 3 different sets of Weekend Update guests coming in. Let's talk first about Krampus. Bowen comes in as Krampus, who's burnt out from eating too many kids. And, really, I mean, I think that this was fun. Obviously, Bowen sort of, like, this is his thing, right? Like, we're sort of getting to know Bowen in his few years on the show. He's going to play a random character and come on in and, like, a la an iceberg or Krampus, whatever it is. And then that's going to be representative of Bowen playing that character. There's always a little bit of Bowen that peeks through whenever he's characterizing any of these performers. And he comes in, and I think that the best part of this whole thing has to be that we love Louis, who puts on this incredible makeup for Saturday Night Live, but the horn falling off and the improv with Colin saying the horny joke, like, I love stuff like that. So Kaleena, did you enjoy getting to see Bowen tonight?
I loved this, but again, like, anytime that Bowen is playing someone who's just going through some sort of like chaotic situation, I'm just always in on it. I also think, excuse me, I almost died. I also think that there are certain, not like cast members, but there are certain types of comedians who sometimes, when something goes wrong, like whether it's like a wardrobe malfunction like that, or a line gets messed up or something, there's some people who don't really know how to respond quickly, and it becomes like an awkward thing, and the fact that it was awkward is what stands out. And I think Bowen is an amazing example of someone who can roll with it and incorporate it and make it part of the joke. And so now it's a standout thing because of how funny it was and because of how well done it was, and not because it was something awkward that happened. So I thought it was really funny. I always love it kind of reminds me a little bit of like when Sudeikis does the devil character. Like, it's an inherently bad character who like feels like they're going through very relatable problems that they want to share. So that kind of premise for an update character always works for me. And then separate, I just wanted to note that Colin's hair looked really fluffy tonight, and that really just did a lot for me during the update.
I'm glad. Haskell, did it do a lot for you, and how'd you feel about Krampus?
The horn, it was so great though. Like, I felt like once I saw it starting to teeter, in my mind, the first thing I went to was like, what would I do? Like, if I was on Saturday Night Live and I could feel that sound, like, what would I do? And I was actually having fun watch. I was like, okay, is he going to hold it? And then there's a point where he kind of tilts his head back to see if he can just keep it balanced before you decide. Like, I was actually enjoying that game of like watching, like, oh, how is this going to play out? In terms of the character itself, I really, really enjoyed this character more than I think a lot of these characters where Bowen is playing something where Bowen shines through, because I think he had way better rhythm to this one. And some of the other ones that he's done, I characterize them as loud, and they're Bowen loud for a few minutes and some good punchlines, but they're loud. I loved the rhythm of him continuously going back to Da-Da-Da has a quote about this, and the way he said he would go back to the same cadence every time he got to that, like somebody who would say that in real life. And then they finally played it up in that last moment where he just quotes a demon, like in some sort of speaking tongues. So yeah, I really like that one.
Right. And then next up, we get, and Heidi Gardner fans, everyone's been asking for Heidi to return back to Update. And this time she comes back in a big way with playing Colin's great aunt Pat. And in comes Mikey Day also playing, I guess, her butler this time. And, really, really fun moments where she's sort of being very meta, talking about, oh, yeah, I'm back on Update, even though she's never been there before. And at the end, she says, I'm recurring. But really, she keeps asking for kisses on the lips, and Mikey brings a drink, and Heidi keeps tapping his crotch. And there's just this like runner of like, Heidi tapping Mikey there, and then, sort of fiddling with his junk. And, this was kind of weird. It was kind of fun. Still not sure what to make of it. I really definitely need to rewatch this one. I do know that in dress rehearsal, Michael Longfellow was also in this little bit together with the three of them, and there were all the kissing and stuff like that, so they cut that part out of here. But Haskell, starting with you on this one, how'd you feel about great aunt Pat tonight?
I didn't know Jost and his great aunt were part Vogelcheck, so good for them. Be little Vogelchecks, but
it's a Christmas episode.
This is kind of little one note, but I actually do like this for the same reason I like the Vogelchecks, because the Vogelchecks only really work because it's Bill Hader and Fred Armisen and Kristen Wiig and Andy Samberg, and you can just see how much that cast liked each other and how comfortable they were with each other to be able to do that. And that was sort of the sense I was getting from Mikey and Heidi, and even Colin in this, and Mikey Day and Heidi Gardner. They've been on SNL together for kind of a while now. We kind of forget because people like Kate and Cecily were here for so long. But they've been here a while too. So it kind of felt like a sketch where there was two, performers who have worked together for a while, who are so comfortable with each other that they're willing to, touch genitals on TV or wipe faces and stuff like that, and to get Colin involved. It was just kind of a really fun, kind of goofy bit.
Kaleena, did you like it?
I'm so mixed on this, and my notes are all over the place because I also immediately thought of the Vogelchecks, which is one of my favorite sketches, and it's part of my playlist I was referring to when I like show SNL videos to people. But I ended up having a conversation with my roommate after, because I was like, I think this is funny and I want to laugh, but if the roles were reversed and it was like, a man doing this to like the woman butler, we wouldn't be allowed to laugh. Like, it wouldn't be funny. It would be totally different. And so then I wondered, like, oh man, should I feel guilty? Like, is it bad that I'm laughing that this is, a woman doing it? Is it bad that it's okay because it's a woman doing it? But then that's also supposed to be the joke. And like, I don't know. So I was having like a moral conundrum while I was watching this sketch. Overall, though, I did find it funny. And I very much agree with your point, Haskell, that you can just tell like the comfortability that Heidi and Mikey have with each other as castmates and as performers. And so just seeing their like good chemistry with each other was really fun. I was very much a fan of the Mikey and Colin kiss. It kind of brought me back to that episode of The Office as well. So I'm always down for a fun joke like that. So I don't know. It was okay. I would feel fine if I never saw that character again, but it got a couple laughs out of me. And my favorite line probably in all of Update was Mikey saying, "I'm not in a lot of sketches this week." So
yeah. I did like that. But like, I guess my thing when I was watching this, and my big question was, is Mikey like wearing any padding down there? Because like all it takes is like one flick, and then like he's down for the count. Like he's out for the rest of the episode. So it was like we had to put him on IR. So
not that I was looking entirely closely, but it did look like he was squared off in the crotch a little bit. Like it was kind of flat and squared off. So I think he had some sort of modesty padding.
Yeah. I mean, we always say SNL is like a sport, and now like we have the cast members wearing jock straps and sketches. So like, so this was, yeah, I think the chat thinks he had padding. That I would hope, Mikey. We want little Mikeys to be coming around eventually. So, okay, let's get to the moment that, everybody wants to talk about tonight. And here it is, Cecily Strong saying goodbye to us on Weekend Update. And we weren't sure what we were going to get from Cecily tonight. Could it be the girl you wish you hadn't started a conversation with at a party? Could it be, Cecily Strong coming out and doing some bit with Colin, of course, former former Weekend Update anchors. A lot of people forget that Cecily Strong was a Weekend Update anchor, and I'm happy that the show at least acknowledged it tonight. But first done in season 40, episode 8, this was a character, Kathy Ann, that appeared in a couple sketches before they brought Kathy Ann over to the update desk. Very a la Stefan, like that style of stuff. And we last saw this in the Krasinski episode in season 46, but for the 11th time, here comes Kathy Ann, and she is here to say goodbye. She's going to prison for admitting crimes. And of course, we get some really fun shots here, including Kate McKinnon and Aidy Bryant in jail. And I actually think that was the right way to do that. Not to have Kate and Aidy there, but to have like the reference to them. Really cool. Love this moment where she says she had a lot of fun here and had some of the best moments of her life there with people she loves so much. And for me, the best part of this moment was just, very similar to Kate McKinnon last year, where we had, the alien abduction sketch to open up the show. She's in and out of the Kathy Ann voice as she's doing this bit. If you go back and watch it, she's just can't keep the voice together on purpose or not. And became very emotional. It was really nice to see. Kaleena, how did you feel about our goodbye to Cecily? At least the first one we got tonight.
Yeah, so I will say like the update goodbye for Cecily worked 1,000 times better for me than what we ended up getting at the end. I definitely I started crying at the inclusion of Kate and Aidy, which I completely agree was the only way that should have been done, just kind of like a fun little nod. I think I actually would have been irritated if they showed up to send her off. And then I ended up just kind of generally crying through the rest of Update because I think his emotions were like palpable. Like that man truly seemed like he was having to say goodbye to what seems like to be a very close friend to him. I was hoping for Girl You Wish, but I think that was maybe just because that's just such a great character that I almost didn't give credit to all the other great characters that Cecily has embodied. And so seeing Kathy Ann, I think instead of Girl You Wish was actually a pleasant surprise, and I think a better kind of vehicle for her goodbye on Update. And she finally got that cigarette lit, guys. So I think it was a really great send off for her.
Yeah, that I agree. I mean, that moment was really touching too, where if you do follow the character arc that she lit the cigarette, that was a fun little moment in there. Haskell, how did you feel about our Update goodbye to Cecily Strong?
Yeah, I kind of thought it'd be Girl You Wish You Hadn't started a conversation with too. But it feels like in her time at SNL, Cecily like graduated from certain things, right? Like, a lot of people said like, oh, they should have done one final, girlfriend talk show. But it just felt like there was a point where Cecily graduated from that character. And I think she's graduated from things, but never something like Kathy Ann, who was so incredible from the beginning to the end. One of my favorite jokes is kind of the idea that like Cecily Strong was not a Weekend Update anchor. It was actually Kathy Ann, like pre, issues that she had. Like that's always going to be in the back of my head. It was a really, really nice moment. I got kind of really choked up, like I said, when she shows Kate and Aidy, and I'm always a real sucker for, they've done this a few times with departing cast members, either asking or talking about the people who have already left, kind of the other side, and in this case, the other side of SNL is they're using jail. When Fred Armisen left, he talked about, they're leaving, but they're still gonna play together, and other characters have asked, what's it like when you leave, and they say you'll be okay. It's just always like Cecily already has like her own TV show and so many projects outside of SNL, but there's something about that really kind of really brings home the idea that you're finally taking the leap, and there's that thing of like she does have those friends who have already done it. So a really, really great moment. She got choked up, which was, probably was obviously going to happen. And it was a really good moment, and probably up there in terms of the great Weekend Update goodbyes of all time.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. And I know that like she's been there a long time. and not Keenan levels along, but very long. And it was just kind of fun. I mean, this was so unexpected. I really only found out today, and a lot of people sort of speculated on this because the cast photo had come out, and we talked about this on the patron feedback show a little bit this week, like could somebody be leaving. But the fact that she decided to leave at Christmas really gave me, if I had to compare this to another goodbye, it really gave me Amy Poehler vibes, where Amy was pregnant, she comes back for a few episodes, and then like just does like the last few episodes there and says goodbye. Also leaves at Christmas time, like another one of the all-time great female cast members of the show. And like I really felt like that would probably be the similar comparison to what we saw here. I do love that she got her own moment to say goodbye. I think like, Kate and Adie and Pete and Kyle had their moments over the spring, and it was a little bit jumbled of like what to focus on and stuff. But like I love that for one of the all-time greats, she got her own episode to really have these moments. So I think that was nice. And the truth is, when it comes, and I've been around, and I know some people in the chat have been around for decades watching this show. So I empathize with how everybody's feeling about the situation. I just really think from my experience watching cast members depart, especially if you love Cecily, we truly can't appreciate her until she's gone from the show, because you're just so used to getting to see her. And then like when she finally does come back around, comes back to host the show or appears again, it's the moments where we get to celebrate her and enjoy her and be like, yes, okay, we missed that, whatever. Like that's the thing that I feel like is where you get to truly appreciate these cast members that depart. So, and I think we'll get that with some of the ones who left in the spring too. But I mean, for me, we'll talk about this a lot on Monday. Excited to turn the page towards this new era as well. So very, a lot of things to celebrate here tonight, including Cecily. And I'm excited to talk about this Blue Christmas one coming up in just a little bit. Right after Weekend Update, though, we get White Elephant. So I don't know if you ever played this game before. Basically, we have Austin and Cecily, Heidi and JAJ, Devin and Ego, and Andrew, and they're all playing this game where you can pick a prize or a gift, and then the person who picks after you can either pick a new one or trade with someone previously. But Austin doesn't really get the game because Austin gets an ashtray that he absolutely loves, but then Cecily, as Ava, steals Sean, which is Austin's character, steals the gift, and he's very upset by the game and says it sucks. Eventually he gets another ashtray, and the button on the sketch is that Mikey Day appears as Santa Claus, who knew that, as his father, knew that Austin really needed the ashtray. So, Kaleena, you're laughing. Did you like it? White Elephant, written by Gary Richardson and Alex English. Kaleena, do you
Sorry,
like it?
you cut off. I didn't. Oh, okay. Sorry. The audio went out for a second. I loved this sketch, honestly. And I didn't, it doesn't seem like a sketch that I would love, but it really got me. I think one, because secret hurt feelings at White Elephant gift exchanges are real. I don't think it's a super fun game to play because I think people do get really set on certain gifts. But I also just loved, and this kind of speaks to how he was in the whole episode, Austin really committed to every single character he played. For better or for worse, he was all in. And so it was kind of fun to see him acting really impassioned about this ashtray, this collect all. There was some weird moments where I don't know if maybe the cue cards got mixed up and it seemed like there was some talking over each other, like some missing of lines, which kind of threw me a little bit, but I think they picked it up okay and kind of found their pace again. I don't know, the little twist at the end with Mikey was kind of fun. I didn't really see where they were gonna kind of land and where the joke was gonna end, but I thought this was a perfect sketch, and I think it was placed really well within the episode.
Haskell, how'd you feel about White Elephant tonight?
Well, it's Yankee Swap to me. I don't know what you guys are calling it, but this was another one that it didn't offend me like the first sketch did, but I did have a little bit like, okay, people are playing White Elephant. Guy gets mad that his gift gets taken. This feels like, like maybe a Peter Griffin Family Guy plot from 10 years ago. Like, it just felt very like, yup, somebody gets mad about that. That's a good premise. Now you, being an elite comedy writer, how are you going to put your stamp on it? And they were like, well, he's going to continue to get mad. It's like, okay, well, where are you going to go from here? We're going to have to cut the rest of the sketch, so Santa's going to show up. I thought the ability that Austin Butler got to play a little bit more of a character in this one versus the first sketch of the night sort of you know, saved it a little bit for me, and the fact that it was something kind of ridiculous like this ashtray that he also like it was an ashtray and a catch-all, so like I kind of had this like the fact that he called it both, I had this image in my head of him using it as both for some reason, so like having it full of ashes and also using it as a catch-all was just a funny image in my head. But this was like a C sketch, like a paint by number sort of, you know, we don't go on because the show's ready. We go on because it's 11:30. We have to fill out the night. Here's a sketch. It's Christmas related. Have some fun. We'll have Santa show up at the end.
Well, here's the thing: is like when I was watching this, because I think the premise is interesting here, right? And I think taking innocent, cute Austin and making him this angry character is like what we want to see on SNL. So I think there's something here. And then the interactions between him and Cecily, I thought were decent. Now, my first question I asked was like, why did we need Heidi and JJ and Devin and Ego and Andrew all in this sketch too if they weren't going to do much? And I guess the obvious answer is like you need a lot of people to be able to pull off the structure of a Yankee swap or a white elephant. But my thing is like I think what was missing from the sketch, for me at least, the button was like whatever, but I think what was missing is like the interactions between Austin and everybody else. Like I really think that he really just focused on like Cecily's character and maybe like a little bit Ego, but like he needed him to get like so angry at every single other person there, like, you know, almost like in the Arby's commercial a few weeks ago, like we just had like Cecily Strong being like, this is my debut Arby's commercial. I got like really angry. Like I needed him to like people to just say something stupid and him to get like so angry and trash the place. Like I think that was the escalation in the sketch that I was missing from this one. So I think premise was interesting here. Execution didn't fully work for me. And I think that they could have worked it out more a little bit. All right. But
I think that's where it's got cut too.
Yeah.
That's probably where.
So this is a sketch that was cut from. Speaking of cut, was cut from last week with Steve and Marty's episode where we had Jennifer Coolidge is impressed. This is a Chloe Fineman vehicle where she's playing Jennifer Coolidge, obviously very well known now for many things, but very well known for The White Lotus. Actually, Jennifer Coolidge, fun fact, auditioned for Saturday Night Live once upon a time, and you know, huge celebrity. But Chloe plays Jennifer for the first time since the Rami Malek episode back in the beginning of season 47, and we get this fun bit where she's just impressed by everything, including Michael Longfellow playing on the piano and playing Jingle Bells, and then the menorah she says happy birthday to, and we get Punky as a bartender here as well. Haskell, tell me about Jennifer Coolidge is impressed.
I love these sort of sketches. I feel like this has sort of an Andy Samberg vibe, and they don't do them as much anymore as they used to, where they're just like they like name the sketch, the premise of it, and then they just continue to build off of it. And it helps when you have like a master impressionist to do it, which they did, and she was phenomenal in this role. And there was just a few lines in there that were like killer. Like, what's the ultimate stocking stuffer? A foot? Like, that's like a really like funny kind of like cute line. Like, I liked that. She had a very interesting note on what eggnog tastes like. Which kind of like, it feels like Sarah Sherman's not a part of this, but it feels like there's a Sarah Sherman effect. I feel like the show is getting just slightly more vulgar or like slightly more sexual, and they're pushing those boundaries. We saw it here, but overall, just kind of a little delightful sketch.
Kaleena, how'd you feel about this one?
I wrote in my notes 10 out of 10 no comments, and that's just because I'm so on board for Chloe's impressions. I think that was probably what hooked me the most about her when she joined the show. Was I just genuinely found her so funny, kind of in the same way that I feel about Bowen, is I just feel like she's so committal, and I feel what really stands out about her impressions for me are like the facial expressions. I feel like she gets that and the mannerisms of whoever she's impersonating so exact that even if maybe the voice is ever a little off, or if one puzzle piece doesn't quite fit, she's still giving so much that it always works for me. I always think back to whenever they do, you know, like the like what was the on the Jimmy Fallon episode, Christmas episode years back, where they were doing like the Michael Bublé duet sketch, and it's just different cast members doing impersonations. I kind of associate that with their Christmas episodes, so I was happy to get like a little bit like this, where someone was doing an impression. And then I think Jennifer Coolidge is just very topical right now. So even though people who are maybe like on TikTok or cruising on social media are maybe seeing a lot of Jennifer Coolidge impressions, for me, it worked perfectly and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and with all the White Lotus commentary now, it makes sense that they might as well put this out. So makes sense to me. And yeah, I mean, we had a lot of discussion about Chloe Fineman and her impressions on the show last week, so people know my thoughts on it. But I enjoyed this. I thought this was fine. It was short and quick and decent. So this was pretty good. But then, of course, we get back-to-back pre-tapes separated by, I guess, a commercial break. But here comes Please Don't Destroy with Flirts, the 12th aired Please Don't Destroy pre-tape, where Austin Butler is sitting in the room with John and Ben, and they spill on their shirt. But here comes Hurley with the Flirt, otherwise known as the plastic shirt, and they're looking for investors, and they end up getting Austin to try it on. He feels like he's wearing a phone case. Devin comes in wearing plants, and then Marcelo comes in with the hat and jacket. Obviously, this keeps devolving where we get the mystery people who's going to come in next. Lizzo comes in as Martin's girlfriend. Love that bit. And obviously we had Lizzo in a pre-tape and a PDD pre-tape in the spring as well. I love the line where she says he says his life is a movie, and then she says she isn't wearing planties, of course. But then we find out that it's Marcelo's hair is falling out, and it really devolves into this weird, almost like Justin Bieber, Calvin Klein-esque commercial where they're all showing off the Flirts. So, Kaleena, thoughts on Flirts?
I really loved this. I think the more of these we get, I'm really appreciating not only like the editing in these pre-tapes, but just their pace and how quickly they build up and how snappy it is. Like if you look away for 10 seconds during one of these, you've just missed like half of the jokes, like I just really appreciate how quick they are with everything. I didn't really know quite where this was going. Like I understood the investment thing right away, but I didn't really know where the joke was leading, and it just got more and more ridiculous. I loved Lizzo being in there. I'm really enjoying them integrating the cast members into these shorts. The "we only make $30 a video" bit really cracked me up. I love when the cast, similar to Mikey Day, mentioning that he was not in a lot of sketches this week. I kind of love the self-deprecating commentary in moments like that. So this was great. I think this was a really good, like, quick little energy burst right before we moved into the final send-off for Cecily.
Haskell, did you enjoy tonight's PDD pre-tape?
I don't know if a PDD pre-tape has fallen flat for me yet, and the streak continues. Like, they're you know what I mean? Was that their best one? No. But they're fun. The Planties line was killer, and like you said, that we only make $30 for these videos is killer. And I think it's kind of a funny joke about how like none of them are actually cast members, which is like kind of funny too to think about, even though they have such a presence on the show now. It's just missing two things. One that like would have really elevated it is like it didn't have the full like sandbox of the PDD office that other PDD videos have, where like people aren't always coming through the door. Some people are just like in the room, you're looking around, anything could be in that room. Like I didn't get that. And the second one, less of a gripe, but get me some Molly Kearney in that video. Like they would have been perfect in that role. I'm glad that a lot of like new cast members have been getting some shine in these PDD videos, but give me some Molly there.
Yeah, that would have been a good spot for sure. I like this one. I thought this was fun. Again, I'm kind of like, this is the end of the night. We've seen a lot of stuff. I'm kind of like a little loose and fun and flirty. So I think for me, this was a good pre-tape. Enjoyed this. And I think PDD is on a roll this season. I think they put up some really good stuff. So let's get to our final sketch of the night, otherwise known as Blue Christmas, which is, of course, a very famous Elvis Presley song. And this time it sort of opens up on what you think is going to be a sketch where Keenan, as Frank Lasagna, is saying goodbye to Cecily for working at Radio Shack. So basically they take like the stupidest, most straightforward like sketch premise just to excuse it by bringing in the casual Elvis, otherwise known as Austin Butler, to sing Blue Christmas and Goodbye. And, there's been a lot of moments like this over, this decade of the show where, I think of, where they're singing about Barack Obama or like different things like that, where they sort of like, you open up on home base and they're singing. And, Keenan comes back to sing. We get Mikey and Ego and Heidi and Bowen that come in behind her. Colin comes in to sing, and this really emotional moment of Colin Jost and Cecily Strong hugging. And as I was watching this, I mean, I really for me, this works. And I was watching it thinking like, this is not going to work for everybody. Like, not everybody is the type of person that loves this stuff. As somebody who has seen, like, gone back and watched every episode of Saturday Night Live, like, this is the kind of thing I live for. I love it when we get to like see the real people on the show, or SNL becomes like the ultimate reality show where you get to like know the personalities. And that's why I enjoyed like this like final goodbye for her, which is like, it's they hit it in a sketch, and there's so many moments I could think of like end of season, like, oh, it's the graduation for these people, or like, oh, we got to say goodbye to these people. Like, that's the kind of stuff I love on Saturday Night Live, when they get so meta like that. So Haskell, did you like Blue Christmas and our final goodbye to Cecily Strong for the night?
Yeah, for me, the greatest moment I ever had watching Saturday Night Live was the Kristen Wiig goodbye. Like, that was, the breaking apart of the cast that I grew up watching. It was the ultimate tip of the cap moment. And it very much looked like this sketch, because if you remember, the Kristen Wiig started with, hey, it's a graduation, and it looks like there's a sketch that's going to happen, and it breaks away the musical number exactly like this. And it got me thinking, some people are, self-indulgent, should Cecily have just left at the end of last year with everybody? Did she stick around so that she could have the moment? And it's really starting to hit me. I don't think Cecily stuck around to have this moment. I think Lorne pushed her to have this moment. I think it became more clear than ever that Kate McKinnon was an incredible all-time cast member, but Lorne always viewed Cecily as his heir apparent to Kristen Wiig. That was his quarterback, and I think he wanted his quarterback to have this moment tonight, and I think he showed it. He gave her the Kristen Wiig send-off. It's one of the biggest send-offs that we've seen. She got 2 send-offs. She got the good night tonight. She got that really broken character, just we're saying goodbye to Cecily. And when it's all said and done, I think well-deserved. I think maybe not right now. We're not going to realize it. I think 5-10 years we look back now. I don't know if anyone's ever, at least on the female cast side of things, we might put Cecily at the top when it's all said and done. So a very well-deserved moment, and I really enjoyed it.
Love that take. And for now, it is all said and done until she does return to the show. But Kaleena, let's get your opinion on what you saw tonight from Blue Christmas.
This is the hot take show. Remember that, guys, before I start talking. It's like 99% didn't work for me. I like your point that you were starting off with, that this should be the stuff we live for, right? Like, these moments. Like, I remember when I started watching SNL religiously, I think around 2009 is where I was like, I'm not going to ever miss an episode when it's airing on Saturday. And my favorite part was always the goodbyes. Like, I would not let anyone touch the remote until I saw everyone hug each other, and until, it completely cut. I loved the initial premise of, we're going to set this up like a sketch, but I can see in Keenan and Cecily's eyes immediately that that's not where it was going to go. I loved what seemed like such a genuine, heartfelt moment from Keenan, him telling her that he loved her, and kind of seeming like he was almost breaking a little bit, or at least his voice was breaking a little bit. But then it's like, okay, well, what did Warner Brothers put in Austin's contract, that he had to sing as Elvis in order to agree to host the show? Like, did we really have to have Austin singing as, you know what I mean? Like, I love him. I want him to win the Oscar, but it just felt like, we know he played Elvis. He's on the campaign trail. We get it. So that felt really like removed from the intention of what that moment was supposed to be. And then it was like, so Cecily's just going to stand there, or is she going to do something? And then when she started singing, I don't know if that made it better or worse. And then they're doing this duet, and then like some cast members came on stage and then some didn't. And I was wondering if it was going to roll into something else. And then what brought me back was when Colin showed up. I started crying when Colin showed up because he was obviously, I think, as emotional as I was feeling as a fan and as an audience member, I felt like I was kind of seeing that in Colin too, because I would imagine not only are they close friends, but I think he's a fan of her as a performer. And so that moment I really liked. And then I kind of thought like, oh, this would blend into a nice goodbyes. Like, let's forego the commercial break and let's just kind of have this as like a nice send off. But then it didn't. And so then they kind of awkwardly like finish out the song, and then we have 3 minutes of commercials to sit through, and then half of the people are going to gather back on the stage. So I feel like the pacing of it and the tone of it would have been really important to remain consistent for it to work really well for me. And because it kind of felt like it was an up and down, there are moments that stand out for me, but overall I don't think it really worked. I would have preferred probably just the update.
I have a question for you about the song choice, though. So, are you a fan of the Kristen Wiig goodbye first?
Yeah, I am.
Does it bother you that they chose Rolling Stones songs when Mick Jagger was the host?
That's a fair point. I don't know. I don't really have an answer. I think maybe I'm just like a little overwhelmed with the amount of push and like press and campaigning that's been surrounding Austin Butler in the Elvis movie, and like the man always has 4 buttons undone in every outfit he's wearing. Like the Warner Brothers is just going so hard with the marketing, so it just felt like a lot.
Yeah, I got it. I think it's an Austin Butler thing. So I think if you were to pull that aspect out of it, maybe you would appreciate it more. But I understand what you're saying. And look, we welcome all perspectives on it. So that's totally fair. I think for me, like if I had to nitpick, I would say like, here's a couple things that I would have liked. I would have liked all of the cast members to be there. Like I felt like it was a little odd that they had like some and not all. And then I think like, look, if you were gonna bring back anybody, it didn't have to be Kate and Eddie, but like any former cast members or whatever, I think this was probably the spot you could have done it if they were in town and felt like they were going to, a la what happened, with Kristen Wiig, where they're bringing in all these former cast members that have showed up, and now Will Forte's there and stuff like that. Like that's the type of fun thing. So yeah, I mean, look, the Wiig moment for me, I think will always be like at the top of like my personal bucket list of just like things you have to see when you're on set watching Saturday Night Live. And like, yeah, this was Wiig-esque for the goodbye. So I totally agree with Haskell's point. Like, I think this is the way that the show wanted it. And I hope Cecily's, proud and happy of it. But this is, I think what I'm going to take away and remember forever about this goodbye is just simply that moment between Colin Jost and Cecily Strong. And like Colin, one day, whenever it comes, like will have his own goodbye for the incredible contributions he's had, not only as an update anchor, but a writer and all that stuff. But like clearly to him, somebody who's been so impactful for the last generation of Saturday Night Live, he felt that Cecily Strong is like his person. And just like that hug and emotional moment there. And Keenan, of course, like there's just a lot here. So I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I'm happy that, we can now turn the page towards what's to come in the future with so many exciting new prospects and cast members. And then one day again, we will get to celebrate Cecily Strong. Okay, so a few things that I'd like to say about this week's episode. So, of course, by the way, just so you know, this Blue Christmas sketch was written by Colin Jost, Ken Sublette, and Will Stevens. So Colin actually contributed to writing this particular piece, which I think is an important note. Okay, so we had a few things that were cut from this week's episode. First up is on Weekend Update, there was going to be a joke swap that was cut this week. So we same thing with, I believe at the finale last year, there was something similar. Obviously the goodbyes put a wrench in that. So there was a joke swap address. We didn't get that. Then there were 4 sketches. First up, we'll talk about Merry Christmas, Everyone, which was a sketch written by Streeter and August White, where Bowen and Austin steal everything from Chloe and Mikey's house as kids run around and Michael and Sarah play instruments. Keenan reacts saying that these are always his favorite parties. So it's really just Bowen and Austin stealing everything from Chloe and Mikey's house as kids run around. That was, I believe that one was a pre-tape. Then we get Moose Tracks, which is a sketch that was very similar to the Benedict Cumberbatch's episode last season where we had the Blue Bunny sketch, which was they were trying ice cream. This time Heidi, Keenan, Molly, and Austin as a cowboy eat ice cream in a focus group moderated by Ego and Mikey called Moose Tracks. So that's the recurring sketch we did not get from this episode that was cut. Then there was, and that one was Heidi and Colin and Rosa Baker. And that was Will Steven, O'Kane, and Heidi Gardner, excuse me. Then Fusion Scientist. This one was Jost, Baker, and Silva, where we had Sarah, Heidi, Cecily, JJ, Austin, and Marcelo at a table for the holidays. Austin is one of the fusion engineers. Marcelo is a pizza delivery man. They are brothers, and Austin gets a lot of praise for being a brainiac. Marcelo is tired of being compared to Austin and attempts to jump out the window, except he hits a wall. The sketch ends after Austin punches Marcelo and knocks him out. Final sketch that's cut is this PDD and Tucker called Good Morning, Good Night. It's a talk show for those up at 4:30 a.m. It's 4:30, it's perspectives. That goes back and forth between Austin's Good Night, a calm, relaxing, dark set for people who are drunk on drugs and can't fall asleep, and JAJ's Good Morning for farmers or people waking up early in the morning. This is all in one set, split in half Good Morning and Good Night. So we have two sets, JAJ's Good Morning and Austin's Good Night. Cecily does ASMR on Austin's side. Marcelo appears as an espresso mascot on JAJ's side. The sketch ends with JAJ bringing on a marching band featuring Molly and Devin on JAJ's side. Austin talks a lot about cocktails, and JAJ tries to blend a cucumber smoothie. So that is Good Morning, Good Night. Those are our 4 sketches that were cut from tonight's episode. Also, I would like to make note that it is now December 18th, 2022, which is exactly 25 years since we lost the incredible Chris Farley, former cast member at Saturday Night Live. And I would just like to say our thoughts are with Chris Farley. If you never watched a Chris Farley sketch, go back and watch it. It's a wonderful thing to do over the holidays because that guy was just incredible on the show. And I also really want to recommend our friends at Cadence 13 and Fly on the Wall and David Spade and Dana Carvey put together this just 5 hours of audio content honoring Chris Farley this week. So go back and check that out. Really thought I would bring that up tonight. And then, of course, I'd love to talk about a great moment we had this week at the Saturday Night Network where we got to speak to one of Cecily Strong's former cast members, Bobby Moynihan, in our show that we do called SNL Stories. Just want to recommend that for anybody who hasn't checked that out, where he actually mentioned about, talked about Cecily a little bit and told some really great stories. So that's something that I would like to point out before we give our ratings for tonight out of 10. So Haskell, Kaleena, think about what you want to rate tonight's episode as we get towards the end of 2022. This is our last show of the year. And chat, I would love to get your thoughts out of 10 as well. We're going to put them up on screen. Haskell, starting with you.
Believe it or not, I feel like I've moved on this episode just talking about, I'm now a few hours removed from that really bad start for me. So I had this low to start, but with the Cecily bump, I'm going to put it at a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, Kaleena, out of 10, what is tonight's rating? Oh, Kaleena, you are muted. I just want to make sure we get your thoughts.
Sorry about that. 7.5 was exactly the number that was in my head as well.
Okay, 7.5s from Haskell and Kaleena. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I mean, I really like this one. I think that, when we go back, I'm going to, there was a couple duds probably, but so goes Saturday Night Live. But there was some really high moments here tonight. There was a couple classics in here. And I think with the, I know that our friend Andrew Dick gives bonus points sometimes for music. I give bonus points for memorable moments. Sometimes when the moments exceed the episode themselves, I think that's important Saturday Night Live. So for me, this is always going to get a high recommendation. It's hey, this is Cecily's goodbye episode. So you got to go check this out. So no matter what we got tonight, I'd always give it some bonus points for that. And with the bonus points, I'm going to settle on about an 8 out of 10. Because like I said, there was some really good sketches tonight. Really enjoyed that. Okay. So like I said, Bobby Moynihan interview. If you haven't listened to that, you got to listen to that this week. Coming up, we got a full week of shows to break down Austin Butler and Lizzo's episode of Saturday Night Live. So don't go anywhere. I know it's the holidays, but don't go anywhere because we got some fun coverage. Like I said, I'm going to try Marzipan on a Monday night with our panel of Sean Grant, Amanda Mitchell, and Rich Tackenberg. We got some heavy hitters coming in on Monday to break down this episode. Then on Wednesday, our final By the Number show of 2022, Nicole Rovine will take will resume her chair as host of the By the Number show with Mike Murray, and I will join them to talk about all things numbers and analytics from this week of Saturday Night Live. And then Thursday night, I'll be live with TJ Randolph. We'll be live for the patron feedback show. We're going to take a bunch of patrons coming in, calling, giving their thoughts on Saturday Night Live in 2022, and then looking ahead to our next SNL episode, January 21st, 4 weeks from tonight. So you got to wait 4 weeks, but it's coming up. The following Monday, we have a super fan takeover. I'm so excited for that one. It's another draft podcast. So if you love drafts, you're going to want to check that one out. And then we'll have our best of 2022 special that'll be out the week after, and some fun stuff at the beginning of the year as we head towards it. And if this is your last time joining us in 2022, I know a lot of you just come for the Hot Take Show. I just want to say thank you so much for checking out all of our coverage this year. For on behalf of all of our podcasters who put in, hours with us, giving their thoughts, and I just appreciate all of you so much. I wish you the best and happy holidays, and thank you for joining us tonight. But before we go tonight, Haskell, where can the listeners check out everything you got going on?
Andrew E. Haskell on Twitter and Instagram. I've been working on something a little different for the network. My buddy Andrew Haynes helped me out with it. So guys, keep an eye out for that on social media. If you like it, please make sure that you like, retweet, do whatever you can to show John that you like it, so we can do a little bit more of it. But I'd appreciate that. Have a wonderful holiday season, everybody. Appreciate you guys, and enjoy.
Yeah, Kaleena, where can everybody check out everything you got going on?
Y'all can find me below at Shut Up Kaleena. Thank you guys both so much for having me back. It was so fun and very much needed for my soul to be able to just go on and on about SNL. And I hope everybody has happy holidays and stays safe and doesn't get the flu.
Yeah, definitely not. So I hope everybody stays safe. And love you all. Really appreciate all of you. You can always follow us, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at the SNL Network. Just look for everything we've got going on. We're going to post a bunch of stuff about the halfway point of the season, or the hypothetical, whatever you want to call it, the halfway point of the season, where we're going to post stats of appearances, screen time, all the stuff, all the halfway stuff. You'll get all that stuff throughout the holidays on our socials. So make sure to check that out and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't yet on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Those reviews, we always thank you as well, as a nice little holiday gift to us. So for Andrew Haskell, Kaleena Steakle, myself, Jon Schneider from the Saturday Night Network, I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. We will see you next time, everybody.